Welcome back. It's me, Francesca, with Conversations with Francesca. I know last time we were talking about whether or not perfect parenting is achievable, and this, of course, is the part 2 of that episode. Whether or not perfect parenting is possible, is it even achievable? And I did say that perfect parenting is just something that we made up in our head. It's a myth. There's no such thing called perfect parenting. There's no such thing called perfect parenting. And of course, I shared with us some of the pressures that affect parents, some of the things that puts pressure on us to want to, go forward and achieve perfection in terms of parenting. Today, we're going to be looking at what your child actually needs, not achieving perfect parenting, but what you need to be to that child. What you need to be to that child. And I would say, do not push yourself towards achieving perfection in terms of parenting. Don't do that to yourself. At the end of the day, what I know that children actually require from us, and from my little experience, of course, is a child needs a parent who listens. A child needs a parent who listens to him or her without judging. I remember having a conversation with my nephew, and I'm the cool auntie that they get to talk to. I'm the cool auntie that they get to share things that they don't want to tell mom and dad. They get to share it with me because auntie is cool. Of course, auntie will not judge. And auntie will be like, really? This is happening? Oh my God, oh my days, I'm that auntie that would just basically hear them out without judging them, hear everything that they need to say. And this is what we need to also do to our children. Be that cool parent. Do not get me wrong, you will still be a parent, but be that parent that they can talk to without the fear of being judged. You can listen to them without them thinking that after they've maybe bared their heart, their emotions to you, the next thing they're going to be getting is some reprimanding, some scolding. And then it puts them in a difficult position. They don't want to share with you because they're like, once I tell my mom, this is what my mom is going to do. Once I tell my dad, this is going to be his reaction. And so they bottle stuff in, things that you can easily address, things that you can easily help them put in check, especially when they are growing, when they are getting into their teen years. You want to be there because this is when they are trying to understand who they are, what they are. They are having identity crisis. In this part of the world where we live in, identity is a big issue, right? You want your children to know who they are. You want them to understand their makeup. You don't want them to go out there to get that understanding from someone else, So you want to be their first point of call in all things. So be that parent that listens, be that parent that does not judge, be that parent who disciplines and also disciples. Now, when I say discipline and also disciples, you want to be that parent that, yes, they are wrong. You can correct them. You can appropriate the right punishment for the wrong that they have done. In some episodes back, I talked about model parents and parents in the Bible that, did not really do that which we would have loved to see. And I talked about Ammon and Tamar, and I talked about what David did in that circumstance that led to the death of Ammon by Absalom. Your son cannot rape your daughter and then you do nothing about it. You just scold him and that's it. That's enough, especially in a home that is polygamous in nature, where one child raped the child of another mother, and you think that just speaking about it is enough. Does that suffice? You must be able to appropriate the right punishment for any and every offense committed by your children. Now, while you are disciplining them, you want to create a balance. When I talk about discipleship for us as believers, you want to raise those who can be like you. You want to raise those who can be you. Of course, when you're gone, right? So when Jesus chose his 12 disciples, he was basically modeling a life that he wanted them to live. right? He wanted them to be his disciples in ways, in deeds, in talk, in everything. You know, when he was telling them, greater works shall you do, he's basically saying, I do these miracles, I expect that you will do the same. The same thing when you're raising your children, after disciplining them, you're telling them this behavior is not something that you've seen in mom, you've not seen it in dad. I do not expect this behavior to continue. The reason you will serve this punishment is because I don't want this to linger and fester. I don't want this to become something that would then be an issue tomorrow. You don't want this to grow into a tree that will be difficult to cut down. So when you notice some concerning behaviors, you do it, curtail it immediately. Okay, so while you're disciplining the child, you're discipling them at the same time. This is what I want you to do. This is what I don't want you to do. This is the behavior I am modeling to you. This is how I want you to walk. This is how I want you to grow. That's what you want to do. That is exactly the kind of parent that you want to be. You also want to be the parent that loves and exemplifies love. Don't be shy. One thing I try to teach my kids is we hug a lot in our house. We are very tight huggers. We can hug, we can peck on the cheek. We can tell each other, I love you so much. And we tell them and we mean it. So we're not just saying, I love you and not mean it. So you want to be that parent that exemplifies love. And of course, disciplining and discipling your children are ways to exemplify love. It's showing that you love them. Like you love them enough. You care for them enough. When Bible says that the child that the father loves, the father corrects, it's not wrong. And when you do the same for your children, you're basically teaching them how to love. You're teaching them how to love and how to love correctly. That's what you're trying to do. Okay? So be that parent who loves, be that parent who exemplifies love, be that parent who is not afraid to apologize when wrong. That's something that I am learning, and I'm expecting us as parents, all of us, to embrace this. I know that it's difficult for you to admit and swallow what you've said, okay? Maybe you've said this, XYZ, and suddenly you realize you're wrong. It's okay. Again, we're not looking at being perfect, right? We're just working at being that present, available parent. Being present in every sense of the word. So you want to be able to go to your child and say, hey, guy, my darling, I am wrong. Mommy is wrong. And mommy can be wrong at times, Mommy can be wrong. So it's okay when mommy is wrong. And I am sorry. I judged you wrongly. I am sorry. I realized that I was wrong. This is what you did. Okay? And you are right. Mommy is wrong. I apologize. Be able to do that. Own it. If you make mistakes, own it. Again, you're trying to disciple your child. You're trying to teach your child that it's okay to apologize. You're trying to teach your child that when you notice that you are wrong, it is okay to admit you're wrong. It is okay to say, okay, I know that I am wrong. I admit that this is the wrong that I have done. And then I'm sorry for it. It's okay to do that. You're raising them right if you're doing that. Also, be that parent who is willing to learn and grow. I always say nothing is cast in stone. That this was how it was done yesterday doesn't mean it will remain the right way to do things. So be willing to change, be flexible, learn, evolve, grow. Okay? Again, as you parent your child, you will notice that there are different areas that you need to grow in. There are different areas that you need to unlearn. There are areas that you also need to relearn. So be willing to do that. Be willing to do that. Don't be fixated on a particular style or on a particular thought. Primarily, you're responsible for your child. So make sure that in your learning, you're learning to be the best that you need to be for your child. be the best that you need to be for your child. Okay? Um, One thing that I would say is perfection does not build a connection, okay? Authenticity does. Perfection doesn't build a connection. So when your children know that mommy is authentic, mommy is real, mommy will do this, mommy will apologize when she sees that she's wrong, mommy loves me fiercely, mommy will defend me any day, anytime, mommy will discipline me if I am wrong, daddy will do the same. They would see you as being real. This is somebody that I want to be like. They will look to you. You will become a role model. And who says that we cannot be role models to our children? Unlike when we say that, oh, everybody is striving to look for a role model. I want to have this XYZ as a role model. Why can't I be a role model to my children? Why can't I model everything and anything that they want to become? Until we shape ourselves to be that kind of parent, our children will continue to look outside for role models. They will continue to look outside for people that they think that they can be like, when they have internal role models, really. Parents that can really model the kind of life that you want them to live. And I know that I've been talking about the fact that perfection is not the expectation. Even I kind of feel like God doesn't even expect us to be perfect, really. And of course, I know. Before you go to Matthew 5:48, be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Remember the context in which Jesus shared that. It was when he was giving the Sermon on the Mount, I believe. Remember the context in which that was shared. The expectation is that we grow in maturity, okay? In your spirituality, you're growing. You are growing to become. Bible says that even as we behold him, we become. You are growing in knowledge, your understanding of God. You are maturing in every area. You're becoming a matured believer, not necessarily a perfect believer. Not necessarily a perfect believer. We look at David again, and we'll see Bible says that David was a man after God's heart. And if we look at the life of David, we'll see consistently that David did a lot of wrong, Yet, God considered him a man after his heart. Why? Because David was quick to acknowledge his wrong, recognize that this is what he was doing that is wrong, and he was quick to seek forgiveness, quick to ask the Lord to be merciful, to have forgiveness, to have mercy on him and forgive him of all the wrong. So that's what we want to strive to become. We want to strive to be that individual that has grown, matured spiritually. We're striving for completeness. We are striving, to be that person that is worthy. Okay? Not necessarily living a sinless life, And of course, it is of course not a blanket to live a sinful life. Really. It is just a call to be responsible. It is a call to do that which God will encourage. I like 2 Corinthians 9:12. My grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. Draw from him. Okay? Draw from him. Perfection is not what you should be striving for. You should be striving to be that parent that checks the boxes, that is there, that is doing everything, quick to apologize, quick to say sorry, quick to unlearn and relearn what you need to know. At the end of the day, some of your worst parenting moments, okay, can actually be that most instructive to your child. Some of your worst parenting moments can be the moment where your child learns the most. It can be the moment where you discover that you have taught that child valuable life lessons that will run with them even after you are long gone. So extend grace to yourself, like I say. Extend grace to yourself. We are humans. We are fallible. Okay? We are humans. We make mistakes. The only person that is perfect is God. Is God. That's the only person that is perfect. So we are just trying to be who He wants us to be. And in our raising our children, just as we are becoming, we are helping our children discover themselves and become what they need to be by design, of course, by what God has designed them to be. Popular balance says it takes a village, and I agree. I cannot agree more. It takes a village. Raising a child takes a village. Raising your children takes a village. You cannot do it all by yourself. You cannot do it all by yourself. Build yourself that village that can work with you to build your child up, to raise your child up. Okay? While it takes a village, ultimately the decisions come from you. When your child, of course, doesn't have the capacity to make some of those life-changing decisions, it ultimately stems from you. So while you're taking advice, encouragement, leaning to A and B, for help, for support, know that ultimately every single decision will come from you. How you make those decisions will determine the kind of humans that you will raise. So you want to raise those humans right. And I would always say, sometimes we depend on our abilities alone to raise our children. And how do you raise a child that you did not create? How? How do you want to parent a child that you did not create? So we want to look to God, the one who formed this human. When scripture says before you were born, I knew thee. Before you were formed, I knew thee. It's basically saying to you that this child that you have, I already know existed. I know this makeup. I know everything about this child. All I did was put this child in you to raise, or put this child in your path to raise. I have the manual. I have everything that you need to raise this child. So why do we find it difficult to go to the author of life to give us the manual or teach us how we can raise these children? Okay? So it is important that we rely on the author of life to give us the instructions that we need to raise our children. While perfection is not possible, we can receive per time, per season direction on how to raise our children. I always remember this part of the Lord's Prayer that says, give us this day our daily bread. And these days I am learning to always go to that scripture, go to God daily, to seek instructions, my daily bread, that which I require to function per day. The same thing you can do for your children, that which you need to help your children function appropriately for that day. Go to Him and ask. That check is there. Ask me your daily bread, everything from discipline to understanding, to teaching about emotions, to teaching self-awareness, to teaching about their bodies, everything about their makeup. You can go to God daily and ask for the help that you need. The help that you need to raise complete and whole individuals. God has the manual. Don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Just trust Him through the process. Go to Him and He will tell you what you need to do per time and per season. Okay? Tell me what you think. Tell me stories of how you tried to achieve perfection. Tell me if you failed at it or if you've achieved it. If you have, would like to hear your story, would like to hear what you've done. If this resonated with you, please feel free to drop a comment. Feel free to like, share, and share, and share. Till I come again next time, it's your girl, Francesca, on Conversations with Francesca. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Stay blessed and stay rooted. Bye.